You know, with me experiencing being a transformation coach, I've discovered that people really want to be better. And a lot of times people are not shown the way, but they're thrown into the way.
Don't push me away, don't throw me away. I got some things I need to say. Tell me, won't you hear me?
If you are a leader of any sorts, we have to meet people right there, right where they are. That's the only way we'll be able to really push for effective change. We really want to be better, and we got to help each other get there, y'all, because the world needs to see it.
What's good, family? Please listen, do me a favor. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to the podcast. That's how I grow. That's how I make this thing bigger. That's how I make this thing better. So if you are watching and you have not subscribed or liked, please do me a favor. Like and subscribe to this podcast. Ray Bridging Humans is the place where the people get to hear you and the world gets to see it. Welcome to another episode of Ray Bridging Humans, the place where the people get to hear you and the world get to see it, y'all. I had to bring this episode to my shop, to the barbershop, man, because this is truly a barbershop discussion. This is a place where all of us, at some point or another, have resided, the barbershop. A lot of times we say the black barbershop is the country club for the black man. It's the place where the black man come express himself, the place where the black man come to really just get a load off. And so this conversation is going to be interesting. And if you're new to the podcast, you're a new bridger, welcome to the podcast. If you have not already, please like and share, and also subscribe to Ray Bridging Humans. This is a defining episode for me. This is an episode that is one of the pillars of why I decided to start a podcast, why I decided to get in the community. And I want to talk about today, we're going to talk about who speak for us, who speak for us black men. This is a big conversation. A lot of times we have these conversations in our silos. Every man here represents a different facet of the black male community. And I try my best to pick people that I know could represent different facets of the black male community. I got my friend Dee Smith, podcast host, Boy Please Whatever. My friend Fred Smith, pastor of Gilmer Temple Church. My brother, Big Mike, barbershop owner, formerly incarcerated. This is my brother. I've learned so much from him. We've worked side by side for years. My brother Therese Wilson, a businessman, entrepreneur. He owns a state farm. He's a businessman. And also my big brother Tony George. Tony, he's an entrepreneur as well. He's of the Muslim faith. And this is my co-host for today, Samuel Upshaw.
I'm honored.
Sam Upshaw.
Thank you.
Yeah, so these are my guys. These are my people. And we'll go ahead and get it going, fellas. We're gonna go ahead and get it going. I wanted to have this conversation because our identities intersect a lot. They intersect, and a lot of times you get flack for being a part of certain subsections, and you kind of get a little, pushback, or it's popular to be a part of certain subsections. And I invited everybody here specifically because I think I represent all but two of these subsections. All but two of the subsections in the community. Never been of the Muslim faith. I respect the Muslim faith. I've never been incarcerated like my brother Mike, but everything else I've been. And it's so interesting to me because a lot of times, I came on this episode because I see a lot of talk in the community about how the demasculation, if you will, or the watering down of masculinity from the queer community. And then the queer community said, hey, we just want representation. And then the Muslim community say, hey man, y'all man, this is what's real. This is the faith we need to be about. And the pastors a lot of times say, man, look, everybody, they don't want to stand on the truth. They don't want to know the truth, and people don't want to live in sin and woo. Then you got this part of the community, my big brother, the formerly incarcerated, really being back in society, doing what they have to do to move forward. And you have a businessman who me and Therese have conversations all the time with why we don't have insurance, why the black community does not have insurance. We don't know those proper things we should have in the community, about the community. And being a businessman, a queer businessman who have a podcast, I'm a black man. I'm a black man. I am a black man. I represent so many different parts of this community, and I have friends in all of the parts of the community. Being a barber, I stand here every day, build connection, build community with so many different types of brothers, and I think we all represent and we all want to be heard and understood. So that's what this conversation is about. I want to throw it to my co-host Sam. I want you to just kind of give an intro.
Hey man, appreciate you. I'm Sam Upshaw, and me and Raymond have been family for quite a while.
Long time.
Man, long. I can't even tell you how long it's been, but just a wonderful human being. And then I see my black brother right there. You know what I mean? So, and we've had these same kind of conversations about, why we've had so much separatism in our community, in particular as black men. We're still individuals. So, and I'm Sam Upshaw. I'm a dad. I'm a former entrepreneur. Done a whole lot of stuff in life, and now I'm an educator. Yes. And so I'm able to take what I've experienced in life and transfer that to, like we talked about earlier, giving guidance to young people. And fortunately for me, I have black boys in my classroom. Yes. And I say fortunately because I know that's what I'm put there to do. Right. So that's where this conversation begins, as he mentioned, who really speaks for us. And from you guys' perspective, you represent various aspects of a rich, and I want to make sure I make this clear, rich community. We have to talk about the value that black men provide to this society. Because if it was not for black men, a lot of the trends, a lot of the styles, a lot of the ways that you do business, we talked about earlier, economics, technology would not exist if it was not for us. And I think we need to remind ourselves of that, regardless of whether you've been incarcerated or whether you pastor church, whether you do insurance, there is still some kind of uprising in each one of us. So we've got to figure out a way to remind ourselves of who we are. Yes. And I think first starting with who really does speak for us, who has the voice. Is it all three of us together and just us, or is it one of us? How does that work? And has that even been successful in the past that we talked about in particular? Anybody can jump in when they get ready, but when we talk about speaking for the community, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the civil rights movement. And we had speakers and we had people that were out front. How does that translate to today for anybody?
I think we're still trying to find that identity as black men. We lost those civil rights activists at a time where I don't think they were able to cultivate that next generation of leadership. We always lean on Barack, we lean on certain people in politics, but I don't think that's the area. Yes. That's not the same. Why we haven't always leaned on the politicians, right? There's people in our natural communities who are leaders that just don't get that same type of publicity. And I think we can learn a lot from, Ray's been doing work in the community, from his Christmas toy drive or to getting the coloring books when students start school. It's unsung heroes like Ray that we can be rallying behind, right? But they don't get that publicity. And just because he doesn't have his name on the ballot doesn't mean he's not important. Same thing for everybody else in these chairs. So I think right now we're just trying to find our identity and pinpoint how we can all work as a unit and move together than sectioning ourselves out again. Because if we're speaking to this gentleman who's of the Muslim faith, he may not be able to capture the minds of everybody else in these chairs. Why can't we put all this work together? And so I think that's kind of why we're in that little phase right now.
That's what I was about to say. To answer the question, who speaks for us, I feel like I said on my show before, black men, we're not a monolith. So we don't have to have one person to speak for us. Like you can reach you, he can reach you, you can reach you, you reach, I reach you, I reach you.
Right.
And I think we're really trying to allow people to define what that one black man should look like, what it should be, and it's not realistic.
Right.
You know? So I think we'll be chasing our tails, trying to find that one perfect black man.
Right.
It's not, it's nuance. So.
Right.
It's so nuanced.
I think that, and then when you said that, and that's what I was thinking about, there's no monolith in our community, is that, when we look at religion, we look at politics, we look at the media. I don't think that, you were saying, during the civil rights movements, we had leaders, we had charismatic leaders who came out, who spoke for a lot of us. For me personally, the only black man that speaks truth to black men now, for me, is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, so therefore I would say that. But still, there, like brother said, there's a lot of unsung people, man, who are out working with children, who are out work. I work with young men all the time. I bring them and I try to teach them carpentry. I try to teach them some skills so that they can feed themselves. Sure. I had 2 young brothers. I say, hey man, and that thing, when I say young brothers, they're 30, and I'm like, hey man, come on, like you ain't doing nothing. Yeah. Like you need to learn how to feed yourself beyond trying to work at Chili's and cook and now you ain't there 2 months later and come on, let me give you a skill so you can feed yourself. And it's not because I'm trying to make them a Muslim or I'm trying to make them a Christian or I'm just trying to help them help themselves.
Yes. Right.
And so we have a lot of people in our community who feel that way. The biggest problem for us as black men is lack of unity. Right. The biggest problem for our community, whether we be Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever it is, whatever our faith is, whatever our political affiliations are, the biggest problem for us is that when we look to the right and we look to the left and we see a black person, we don't see value as a whole. Yeah. And I hate to say that, but that's true. Yeah. Because we'll work with everybody else, but we won't work with each other. Right. I saw when they came out with the DEI, when Trump got inaugurated, and the whole DEI thing with Target and Walmart and all that. And I saw the sister, Tabitha Brown, who I was blessed to see down at Brown Baptist one time on a night out. My wife was like, can you go with me? I was like, no, I don't want to go. And I went. And I enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? But she was saying, you want to go? I said, no, I don't want to go. I said, but I'm going to go. She was like, well, you ain't got to go if you want to. I said, no, I'm going to go. I said, because people that love each other go when they don't want to. But I enjoyed it. But anyway, she did a thing on Instagram after this DEI because she has products in Target. And she said, hey, I get it. If you don't want to support Target, I get it, I understand. But understand that there are black people who have their products in here, and she was going on about it, and I understood her side of it, but I couldn't help but blurt out, get your own shelves. Yeah. Go somewhere and get you a warehouse with some other like-minded people like you, put you a shingle up in the middle of the door, and say, we're going to sell our products here. And know that Target didn't start with 300 stores across America. They started with one location, and then they built that thing out. It's our number one problem, man, for me, is our lack of unity. We are divided, and we use that division to not work with each other. So,
Pastor, big bruh.
So the question I think we oftentimes leave unanswered is, who is us? That's number one. And then if we're going to be unified, what's the message? And you can have different messages with the same focus. Speaking to Tony's point with the value, we know as black men, for the most part, we've been told you're gonna be like, you're just like your daddy and all this kind of stuff. So we grow up. Some of us have grown up with that. And we've tried to make it, but there was not a voice for us. So I think, to your point, instead of pointing out one person, find out what the message is. Like, what do we want to say?
What do we want to say?
What do we want to say? Like, okay, we got a spokesperson. Now what?
And then what do we want to do?
And what do we want to do?
What's
So
the
our
accountability
agenda.
of that?
We definitely need an agenda to be able to identify.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, each one of us represent a different sect of black men. All of us are black men, and we have agreed to that, and we understand what that means to us. But do America understand what that means? You know, does people outside of our communities, because the first thing you do, y'all were talking earlier, and I'm kind of a listener. Y'all were talking about how our areas are the dumping grounds for things. But if we stood for something, then we wouldn't allow certain things to happen.
Right.
Because there's no alderman in our community that comes in and says, hey, this is what they're trying to do, guys, with this plant, and they do particular things like this, and this causes cancer, and these things happen when they move to your area. The same thing happens with our school system. Now we don't have a charter. So now everybody has come together and said, oh, I want a charter school over here, I want a charter school over here, but it all affects our children in a way that we lose as a whole, because they're not educating our kids to pass the TCAP, so to speak. That's the guideline that they're measuring us by, to be able to say, well, oh, they're smart enough to read and write it, or they can't. They can or they can't. That's our problem. But we need to come forward with all different sects of people and say, hey, let's have a town hall meeting and say this, and this, and put the agendas in place so we can identify. It doesn't necessarily have to be my idea per se. It could be our ideas collectively. And then once we have those people in place, and then it just, I think it will be a natural movement at that point. You know what I'm saying? Because we just let everybody do anything. We don't stand for nothing.
I agree.
One thing about it though, like, you were very particular about who you chose, and I think this is a very special group of men. We have to, you said you wanted people to be open-minded.
Yeah.
All black men aren't that. You know? Like, he said, I do a podcast
Great
every
point.
week.
Great point. Yes.
I'm a black gay man. I'm proud to say that. And the reason I say this is because I was taught not to be. So people won't listen to me because I don't identify with them. Like, I'm not a textbook black man to something. So like, you're a Christian, I believe. Some Christians may not listen to you. You know what I'm saying? So you have to, like I said, we have to find people who can kind of represent every aspect of what a black man is. And like, some of us feel like there isn't any hope. Like, we were talking about doing the blackout boycott. What one day gonna do?
Right.
Keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to
Right.
do it today and stop. Keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like in our communities, we've been beat down so long, we don't have hope, we don't see light, we don't know what life feels like. We were talking about suicide earlier. People who, to me, who consider that, don't have hope. They don't see a brighter tomorrow. They don't know what it looks like. So I feel like we have to get together in our sub-communities and then have people who are open-minded and willing to listen and know, hey, when we get here, we have a bigger picture. Or if this person's gay or Muslim or whatever, we have a bigger fight to fight together.
But you know, let me say this right quick. I'm sorry. But see, the thing, like you said, you know, when you were saying, well, you know, Christian, you may not listen to a Muslim or vice versa. I don't, you know, like, I don't wear that on my sleeve when you see me. You don't know I'm a Muslim unless I tell you. And I don't hide the fact. I'm proud that I am, and I'm the grandson of a Christian preacher. And so when I come in, I don't deal with Ray because, or I deal with you because you're a gay man. That's not an issue for me. Like, I deal with you based on who you are and where you're trying to go and our commonalities and the things we talk about. And so I don't come in and say, like, me and this brother Therese was talking, I ain't know whether he was Christian. He ain't know I was Muslim. I don't think he did. So I mean, my thing is, I don't wear it on my sleeve to say that I can't work with you because you're this. We got enough problems as black men to where you know, the division stuff is like, we can go in the back room and we can talk about that. You know, like brother was saying, we need to put forth an agenda that's gonna help everybody, and then we can worry about the differences that we have later on. We can put them to the side and deal with those.
Because they gonna always exist. We're gonna always have differences.
Right.
We're gonna always be in a situation where I don't agree with you, but can we agree to disagree?
We ain't gonna always agree with mac and cheese.
Right.
That her mac and cheese is better than hers, right? We ain't gonna always agree on that.
It's almost like a scratch. If we're all in the bowl together, it's almost a scratch of getting to the top of value. You know what I'm saying? For us, you know, regardless of where your identity intersects, like I gotta get to, I got to be seen as a man.
Well, you're scratching for your voice to be heard.
Yes.
And everybody wants to be acknowledged for their areas and their spectrums in the world they live in. And when that person doesn't have that voice and they can't get their point across, and everybody else is, there's an acting out that we have, right? And it's just that acting out isn't a bad thing. It's just like, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with my point now because nobody heard me when I was trying to help us have accountability for this, or help us establish community, or help us grow. And I think that's the one thing is we all have to value each other's opinions. Like I think, for example, you mentioned something about accountability in a sense. I don't think that when all these people that were patriarchs of the black community all died away, were assassinated, whatever, they never left us a blueprint of how to work together.
Man, agree.
We don't have a blueprint. So everybody's trying to, in their own silos, trying to create value and trying to create a blueprint, but they didn't get it checked and approved with all the other groups because nobody really knows what the actual end goal is. We've not said that we all want to boycott Target. I didn't come up with it. Who said I like Target? Shit, I got it right now. But I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna stand on business with us. But who made that call? Now I get it. I know why they did. They had some money they want to give black businesses. They pulled out of that. They wanted to attack them. I get that. As a culture, we were trying to go at them, but at the same time, it's like, man, that's not good enough for me. Right, I got a son that's 5. He needs to see some real action. I saw civil rights movement. I saw action. I don't think my son can look at our generation and say, "Yeah, they stood on business. I seen them marching. I seen them for what? We marching for the same thing today."
It's a lot of distraction. I think it's activity happening, but in modern society, because of technology, the focus is on everything else.
Right.
Because people are still outside active all over the world. As a matter of fact, I think they're probably more active now than they've ever been. But now the media is controlled still by a few people that are only going to show you how bad things are or how bad your condition is versus anybody else. And that's the other thing about it is and you all mentioned about the psychological effects of making a certain particular group of people always feel like they're the worst or the baddest, etc., etc. So as you mentioned, it's difficult for somebody to see past that when that's all you ever heard. So when you do respond, you respond in a way that's not kind. You respond in a way that's not friendly. Because you're tired of being ignored and you're tired of being stepped on. And upset.
But like brother said when he's talking about the agenda, like we have to evolve, man.
Exactly.
The way they protested in the 60s is not sustainable for us now. Why? Because the enemy has evolved. We announced what we're gonna do. Hey, we boycotting on Monday, and they say, "Oh, okay, shit. Well, Monday we're gonna boycott Monday because we're gonna show them how much they'll miss us if we don't come." They already know how much you missing. They look at their ledger. They know how much money you bring in the store, so they're like, "Okay, we count that off. We just raise the price on this. We get that back eventually." And so they've evolved. And so my thing is that protest, while activism is good, but protests, man, are not sustainable unless they're protests like, give you for instance, maybe some of y'all are old enough to remember this. Dr. Harrington, Willie Harrington, used to be mayor. One time he's superintendent of schools here in Memphis. You remember? They came and they said, we're gonna put an ombudsman over him because he can run the educational part, but this capital improvement budget.
The business side. He can't run it. So we're gonna put somebody over him. And the Black Ministerial Association at that time, which was
Lucinda Gray and Bill Atkins and those guys, they said, and it was around September after school had started, right? They said, if you put one over them, we're going to boycott your stores at Christmas. And at that time, we had Goldsmiths and Lowensteins and all them. And I don't know if you remember, the next day in the commercial appeal, they came out and said, we're not going to do that. Because they couldn't afford to lose that money at Christmas.
For us not to be
right, for us not to be in there on Christmas. So my thing is that boycotts like that are sustainable. They change things. Boycotts like the Montgomery bus boycott, which lasted over a year, was because, Rosa Parks sat down, but because that bus company lost all that money because people wasn't riding, because black people wasn't riding it. So we have to evolve. You don't see Chinese politicians. Why? You don't see Japanese politicians. They got community.
But Big Brother, to your point, I think especially because we're in the Bible Belt South, and I think one of our biggest hurdles is with what we put on the front of our mask is our religion. You know what I'm saying? And it just kind of, the book falls from there. And like, they want to know what you believe, what faith you subscribe to. So if you trying to, make a change in the community around here, it number one, it has to be based in Christianity. Number two, if you ain't doing that, if you ain't living no kind of Christian life the way I think you should live, man, we discount you. We're pushing you out, and it's unfair to the overall community. I think we don't really think about how we hold those pieces of our identity up, and other pieces is just dying.
But we identify by our money. So once we start pulling our money back, and once we start understanding our value economically and what we can do as a whole together with our money, that money is gonna make you change your mind. It's gonna make you say, okay, so when black people in our community start realizing that, hey, I ain't got to go away to Wolf Chase and spend my money. I can spend my money in Whitehaven, wherever I need to spend it there, because of the simple fact that it helps me build a community. I can go to the Y in Whitehaven. I ain't got to go downtown. I don't live downtown. Our monetary values are displaced. Yes. And the thing about that is, when we start understanding economically, we are the number one consumers in the country. Start right there. When you start talking money, people start listening. I don't care if you white, green, blue, or brown. When you start talking money, they start making changes. And here's the thing. Let's work on understanding how much monetary value we have, where we want to place it, and then some of the things that we're asking for. We're asking for better schools. We know good jobs bring good schools. So you bringing all these jobs into the city, make them give us something for our school. We got one historically black college in this city. You don't see it advertised. You don't see people saying that I want to go there. You don't see the growth potential. All you hear about is the bad. Oh, they stole the money. They did such and such down there. But you don't feel like those kids that are around here that can't get no further than South Memphis or wherever they can get to the heart of the city and get to school and get an education. Right out their back door, Stacks got a music school. Right out the back door, down the street is an elementary school. We need to come together, form an educational basis, build our own curriculum, start informing our children about finances, start informing our children about things that are moving forward to be able to say, hey, we're gonna make our curriculum this way, whether you Muslim, Christian, gay, whatever it is. Build something for our future, because if our future doesn't have a liaison to be able to look up to, or no one to be able to help them move to the next space in their lives, then we lost as a whole anyway.
To that point, so you mentioned economics, and I think he talked a little bit about it, is what Tony did as well. What is the disconnect between it? And you brought up about the Christian community and your pastor. What is the disconnect because of the black Christian influence in this area? What is the disconnect between black Christian churches having, for instance, one church, right, is in a community. I know this pastor. I know him personally. He's done work in his church himself. His own money, time, and resources himself. And it's difficult to get people to also value that kind of investment, because he's investing in the community himself.
Right.
And we have to also teach that, yes, you might not like the preacher, but if the preacher is investing in the community, this is who needs to be supported. If my Muslim brother,
that's right,
he owns a company.
Yes.
He's providing jobs. Why is there not more support for him because of that? Actually, it's because this guy has a voice, because he got people that listen to him.
I see where you're going.
He got a lot of people that listen.
But I would ask, brother, this question, and I agree with what you're saying in the church, because I grew up in the church, and I grew up in the pews, and I grew up behind the pews, per se, because two of my uncles were also pastors. Well, one's still living, and so I would ask this, and I think this is part of the problem at this point with, because I believe religion is, for me, the best religion is do unto others as you would have them have somebody do unto you.
Absolutely.
For me, it's the best religion.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think if we practice that, we could come up overnight. But I would ask Brother Fred this: what is the percentage of black men in the church?
Wow. I'll say maybe 5%.
Right, and to me, that in and of itself, because men, whether you be gay, straight, Muslim, they are the builders.
That's right.
Yes.
Of this community.
And the provider.
And the providers. And if you're missing that, then you're missing a heavy piece of what it takes to move our communities forward. And so and we've always had to ask ourselves, why are there so many black men missing from the church? You know, what is the perception that keeps them away? You know.
So I think we covered a little bit of this the last thing. There's this perception, and y'all just hear me out. There's this perception, and not necessarily perception, it's truth for me, that in order for a man to have a real solid relationship with God, there has to be a degree of softness to him. Men have been taught, you don't cry. Right. Tough up, boy fall and hurt himself. Get up, don't do all that crying. But most women can connect with God more so because they do have that soft side. So I think because soft is equated with homosexuality instead of masculinity. And because of that, you have so many people, or so many men that refuse to be a part of a church, a Christian church, because they know at some point when God does infiltrate their life, they're going to have to get rid of some of the things they are dealt with. That's been a part of their life. So there's a level of softness that a man must have in order to even hear God.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thanks.
Wow. In order to hear God.
Thanks.
So much more to say about that. Mm-hmm. But it does not define your sexuality, if that makes sense.
Right. Yes.
It does not define, man, you cried at church. I've had people to laugh for, man, dude cried. He's supposed to be. So who's to say because he cried, he's still not a man?
Right, human. Yeah.
He's a human.
Yes.
And then it goes back to what you just said, a human being. Here's the issue, and I've talked this at my church for years, because we get caught up in the Muslim versus Christian and Hindu and Buddhist and gay and straight. I said, if you were drowning,
would you ask?
You have a gay man, a straight man, Christian, Muslim, or a blend of all of them, and one of them pulled you out, would you care when you got out of that water which one was which? You would not care.
Okay.
Because I'd be like, brother, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a brother for life now.
Yes.
I don't care what you feel, what you think, this is a brother for life.
Yes.
And with that comes protection of him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You got what I'm saying?
Right.
The protection of our brothers. That's what we mess up, because again, this idea that I don't want to be associated with you because I don't want to have nothing to do with that. Why? Because you got to look at it. All of us, if we think about it, we're the saviors of our community.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So to the point, I'm glad you said that. Is masculinity an issue?
for us.
absolutely, yeah.
Is it an issue? Because like that's like, I think the biggest elephant in the goddamn room is masculinity. Masculinity, you know, and a lot of men, I see them, I work with men every single day. A lot of men will not, you know, to your point, get on board with certain subsections because, man, bro, like, oh, bro, it ain't, my masculinity is a.
How do you define it?
Right.
Somebody else has defined it for us. That's the reason why we don't know what it is.
Exactly right.
And when somebody else teaches you something about you, you're just going off of what they told you. They don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
So
They don't even qualify to tell you who you are.
Right.
I was with a married group. We had a married couples session last night, and I said, I think I learned how to be a man from my 15-year-old mother. I'm 39, she's 55. So she defined manhood for me first in that everything, I'm going to raise you to do what I think a man should do, or what I perceive a man to do for me. Protection, get a good job, this and the other. Then you get to the phase where, okay, my dad's in the picture. Well, son, I define manhood by the amount of women you sleep with. So, and I'm somebody who I feel like I handle myself fairly well with blocking out, like I can feel God's presence in me younger. I was like, that don't sound right. I'm not gonna do that. But think about all the kids in Memphis who get that same information and they go down a whole different path. And they just don't see that you're being led, like the enemy is attacking your spirit and pulling you into a place where you really don't see that you're so far gone. The waves have carried you so far from the shore, you're like, wow, I'm way out here in the ocean. You know, and so I think for me, the defining manhood is something that's ever changing and growing and evolving. Just like you said, we got to grow from. You said right, like we're still growing into what manhood is. It changes. I cry with my son all the time. I give my son hugs and kisses. I never got that from my dad, but that doesn't mean it makes him gay or be gay. That's I look at it as this is how I'm loving and affectionate to him. I want him to know what love could look like if it ever shows its face like this. It's okay, you know.
But in so many instances, there are no dads in the home now.
Man.
So when you start looking at it, we had this conversation before right now. You hear your mama's side of the story. But let your dad tell his side of the story as well, because there's two sides of the story, then there's the truth. Then when you start to develop, and then you seeing that, man, me and we starting a relationship really late in my life. But that relationship still has value. And the thing about having the value of your father to be able to say, well, you know, I don't think that's right when you start weighing things and then you having somebody to pick that phone up to listen to because your dad listened to your grandfather. You know what I'm saying? And it's a chain of things that goes on within the family. But the government came along and broke that up. They got men in prison. It's more men in prison than they come to church. I learned 5% of men in the church house, and you got 28% men in prison. That's where your deacons at. And then that's when you start thinking about away from home, not being able to give your son that type of thing that he needs to growth and development. Mama can take you so far, but she can't show you how to be no man or tell you what it is to be a man. And then once you start looking at it, it's good that you love on your son and he can identify with you. But how many times that you sent him to school that his friends' father don't come to Donuts for Dads, or they don't have the support inside of the play that he's participating in, or you know, just the small things that we sometimes misconceive and we look past. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, we are an elite group of men right now to be able to have a conversation. Most men, and I'm just telling you this because I'm out the streets. I'm listening to y'all, and I've learned this behavior to move forward and move on with my life from trial and error. You know what I'm saying? I have a pastor too. But then I made good friends and good connections because that's what I decided to do with my life after I got out of prison. But how many times do you sit down and you talk to a brother and he tell you a story and it's relatable and you don't say nothing? Man. Or you be with a kid and you see a kid that doesn't have a father and you just make him feel like you can be a part of it. Churches have a problem with them sometimes because It's the most segregated day in the country, Sunday. It's the most segregated day in the country. You go to church, you see all kind of young men. If you say something to a young man without a relationship, he gonna rebel. It's automatic.
Right.
But once he start to build it, once we start to build our community and we start to build the people that be around us and that we know, when you tell them something, it's taken different.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So our responsibility is to do what we can, be heard as much as we can, I think, and be able to help as much as we can. Now, I'm not saying help to a fault where you become, you know, the one they depend on, but you know, you want to be dependent to an extent and you do your part. But man, it's hard for us to be able to deal with that masculinity, that fatherhood, that, you know, because it don't come with no manual.
Right.
Let me say that.
There's so many challenges to masculinity for us. It's more than just one challenge. It's the possibility of incarceration. Because here's the thing. Any of us can get pulled over and get the shit beat out of us.
Any one of us.
And that don't answer any question. You know, what church do you go to? I ain't gonna go back. No, it's all of us.
Absolutely. But look, he said that, you know, my thing, like, I came here, my mother sent me here when I was 16 years old. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. Okay. 16, I started selling dope when I was 13 years old.
Right.
I started selling dope when I was 13 years old. And that's part of the reason she sent me to live with my father in Memphis. You know, they met at Howard when they were young and had 2 children. And by the time I got 16, she was like, you out of here, because you're gonna die up here. And so, understand this, man. There's no way on this earth that I'd be here without my father. There's no way on earth that I would be here without my father, man. And I say that emotionally because he passed in 17, but dude, that man made me a man. You know, and it took him another 10 years of me being down here with him to get me there. You know, because I was still rapping. When I came down here, I found exactly what I was doing when I was in New Jersey. It was here. I went straight to the projects, man. You know, hey, what's up? I'm here. I'm in New Jersey. I talk a little funny, you know, but, you know, I got over that and, you know, and I fell right in with the people that were there. But the thing is, man, that I think that hurts our masculinity, especially among our young brothers, is this. Every culture, man, think about it, has a rites of passage.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
It's like, if you're a Catholic, you have a confirmation, right? When you become 13, now you're passing from being a child to being a young man. Jewish people have a bar mitzvah, right? Same type of thing. We don't have any transition period because we don't have any men. Number one, we don't have a lot of men who've been through any kind of rites of passage, and we don't have any men who are there to take young folks through rites of passage. That's why you see young boys that are 13, when they get 13 and they're bigger than their mama can't tell them shit no more. I see this all the time, even though we've had, like my wife always said, my mother raised 5 boys. She's the only girl. My mama raised 5 boys, and all of them, they wasn't in trouble. I'm like, your mama's the exception. She ain't the rule. You know, when these boys get 13, 14 years old, and they are physically bigger than their mother, and their mother can't physically do anything to them, they go on the streets.
I think this we gotta have community though. Like my sister, her oldest son, my nephew, his dad's Chris's mother, Easter type of guy. But I make sure my sister allows me to step in. You know, we got some mothers you can't say shit to their kids.
Right.
So I think we gotta have community as well. I just want to play what Raymond doing, what he doing, because those young men, they come, they know you, they have a relationship with you. My nephew, he's bigger than me now. Right. And I tell him every time, I still get in your ass. Right. You know.
But because a man can do that, a man because they respond differently. I took my nephew in when he was 13 years old, and he about 6'3", 6'4". First couple of days he was there, I said, man, take the garbage out. He was like, start pouting. I said, hey man, just tell you something. I ain't your mama. Like, you need to fix your face and you need to get that garbage out before I put my foot in your ass. That's like, that don't happen over here. And so after a while, he understood. But I also explained to him the value of why you need to take the garbage out and what you need to do. But understand this, ain't no slack here. Like, you got to do what I ask you to do, man. You know, you have to hold your weight wherever you go. And so he's a better kid for it now. But when he came over at 13, he wasn't trying to hear that. Like, man, I don't take no garbage out. You gonna take it out of him? I'm gonna take your ass out. That was my spirit.
And to y'all's points, even when I see, I'm gonna go here now. When I see young gay boys coming up in the community, my heart goes out for him because I know his story and I know the degradation that he's gonna have to just deal with just because. Like, you learn to hate gay. We all learn to hate gay in elementary. We learn to hate that. We learn to make fun of that. And so even now with young men that I've mentored who have mamas and daddies in the house, and the dad don't understand why, bro. I put them in football, I put them in basketball, and I can't make them straight. You can't make anybody gay.
That's the problem.
You know that, and I think
we think that you know daddy in the house or you allowing them to express themselves. We think that we can make gay. We think that's something that you can acquire later in life. I tell people all the time, if I had to be the exception to the rule, I'd be that. I grew up in a trap house. I'm from South Memphis. My dad sold drugs. He also worked. I played football. I know how to shoot dice. All the textbook shit black men supposed to know how to do to prove themselves. I got all of it. However, I was who I was. I tried to play basketball, picked it up. You know what I'm saying? I grew up fighting my whole life. Every fight I've ever gotten in, why was it?
Because you gay.
That nigga, that's soft.
It's soft.
So in turn, I grew up having to walk in places and have to be extra masculine because that's what a man is. So we allow motherfuckers who don't know what a man is tell us what a man is. You know, and I grew up, my dad didn't never sit me down and say, hey, this is what rules to be a man. But I watched him, you know what I'm saying? So he provides my mom, he protects my mom. So when he's not there, guess what? It's an unspoken rule. Ain't shit finna happen to his mom.
And that's what it is mentoring and modeling go a long way in what children see, man. You know, like I got 2 daughters and a son, all of them are grown. And my son is a good dude, man. You know, and I hug him and kiss him all the time. When I see him, I hug and kiss him on the head. You good? You know, I tell my children. I've been telling my children I love them since they came out the womb. And so, and my father never told me he loved me, or I never told him I loved him until he had open heart surgery. Maybe he was 60-something. And then after that, we started, saying, because we started realizing mortality. And so I think, like what you're saying, man, is like, it has to be a balance. Like boys need to see strength. In men, but the judgment part, like he was saying, hate gay. I evolved out of that, man. Shit, I mean, when he was young, hell, like if he was gay, like if me and Ray went to the store right now, Ray was driving, somebody saw me, I was like, shit, Tony must be gay. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm like, shit, what can Ray do to make me gay?
Nothing.
You know what I'm saying? What can I do to make Ray straight? Like what difference? What difference does that make?
If they had saw Tony riding the car with a billionaire, they wouldn't ask you were you a billionaire.
Right.
See how the psych. Are you a woman? Like, see how the psychology works. But in particular, back to it though, as it pertains to black men. Because none of us are looked at the same way as any other classification of any other type of guy.
Perception-wise, the black man on this planet is on the, and I said this before, is on the lowest, perception-wise, the lowest part of the totem pole.
Yeah, we got totem pole.
And now when we say, and this is what I'm going to finish with, so I can't imagine what it is to be a black gay man. Because you're thought of below that.
Right, the shit you go through to be able to make everyday life normal. You know what I'm saying?
To make everyday life.
And even black gayness, period. If you're lesbian, black woman, a gay black man, has been made fun of.
The whole time.
It's been made fun of.
You learn.
Well, it's more acceptable when it's a woman.
That's more acceptable.
It's when it's a woman, it's more acceptable. It's easy. It's like, oh,
Well, it's more
okay.
acceptable to a man.
Yeah.
Because he's like, okay, cool. You know, hey, I get on with that. I can, you know,
Yeah.
I can work with two women.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so that's just part of, you know,
The
the
mentality.
mentality.
And I'm gonna tell y'all something. And this is honestly God true. Over the years, I've seen owning a black barbershop. You know, black men in the shop. You know, we talk about ass, titties all day. You know, it's a conversation. If it come up, yeah. But you let something come on TV about something. Somebody a young man walking here with a little twitch on him, bro. I mean, everybody run to their morals. Run to your morals.
This
like
is the
that.
most uncomfortable place I've ever walked. Not this shop in particular.
Yeah.
But the black barbershop is the most uncomfortable place I've ever walked through in my life. I was settling for getting my hair cut in niggas' kitchens.
Wow.
Because I'm like, because
I don't wanna
me
deal with
being
this
me,
shit.
I feel like I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I may be obviously gay to some, but you know what I'm saying? I don't hide it either. But when I'm in a barbershop and that conversation come up, you're not going to sit here and take it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know.
And it's because one thing I think the black barbershop is one of the more honest places in the world
Yeah.
in terms of how
You're
people really feel.
You're right. Say your point, man.
Yeah.
Right, wrong,
You can say your point without like being
Right,
offensive.
right,
to me.
right,
You know what I'm saying?
right,
Like you don't have to agree.
Right.
That's true.
With, like I work at MLGW, so when I got there, you know they didn't know me or whatever, but I found myself trying to like, "What's up, man? How you doing?" You know, and I can do that sometimes. But other times, shit, I don't feel like talking to you.
Right.
But one guy came to me at work and he was like, "Man, I fuck with you because you ain't flamboyant, you don't carry a purse, and you know." I said, "If I did though, you're gonna respect me." So some people feel like, I know in my gay experience, I had to like overcompensate for my masculinity in public just so I won't be fucked with. And for somebody to say, it's like, I took that as a white man saying, you ain't like the other niggas around.
Right.
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 You want to
I'm not just
Right.
I make sure fuck that. However I show,
That's the same.
if I got a dress on, is it your dress? What you fucked up about it for? What does it make you feel? How does it make you feel inside the way I show it?
And so I to me, it's man, I equate honestly like racism and homophobia is like linear. It is linear, but never. And this is not a gay conversation at all, but this is a masculinity black man conversation because like I think this is a hard discussion we're having because this is some of the things that blocks us from the unity piece. This is something that blocks us from organizing peace. This is something that blocks us from just being a man, being able to express myself. Because I feel like if I say something, I'm gonna get canceled. I feel like if I do something, I'm gonna get canceled. So I got a future episode coming up. We have embraced the term, the colloquialism, stand out the way. And we all just, what's up, bro? How you doing? Stand out the way. So stand out the way has so many pieces to it. We stay out the way, we don't get involved in the community. We stay out the way, we don't help children.
But do you see how ridiculous that is in terms of what you just said about, like if all of us say, hey man, we're gonna pool our resources and we're gonna start us a grocery store in the hood that's gonna serve our people. It's gonna be first class, just like wherever you go out here and whatever. And then Ray says, yeah, I'm in. Then I say, man, we gay though.
Well, damn, he Muslim though.
Damn, he Muslim though. Yeah.
Damn, he been to prison though. Right. Come on. That's crazy. It's the same shit.
You see how ridiculous that shit sounds? So I'm just saying, like, divide and conquer has always been a part of their program. It's always been a part. Because don't act like any of these things that we go through, these mentalities we go through, that we originated with us.
It's all by design.
Right.
Yeah.
None of this originated with us.
Right.
And so you don't think they have gay white people?
Right.
Gay Jewish people?
Right. But my thing is, where your heaven the hell at? When you pass judgment on, if I pass judgment on you, I ain't got no heaven to hell to put you in. You gotta answer that shit for you. I can't get you there. I can't make you be nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'm gone. I'm just finna do me. You know how you alright with me? Whatever you doing, hey, why is it so important who you sleep with?
Right.
That's like what the
I
fuck?
think that's also an Americanized fetish too, because sexuality in America, it's always some kind of hyper focus on sex.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that is an economic driver as well. So we know
So
that.
outside,
Right?
bro.
So that's what happens. But then when it comes to back to the point, black men's sexuality is typically focused on more than anybody else. And it even goes back to pre and even during slavery, because white people and white men in particular have a problem with us.
Yeah.
They have a problem with us, and they will use any tactic, any psychological tactic, to diminish the value of us in any way that we exist.
Any way.
So if it was trying to emasculate us by raping us in front of our wives and children,
Yes.
they were willing to go to the extreme.
Yes.
Because they knew who came over here, and they also knew those of us that were here when they got here too, because we were here too.
Yeah,
Yes.
And we had to remind ourselves of that as well. So when there is a focus on somebody that you're threatened by, you'll come up with anything you can because you're obsessed. America is obsessed with black men's sexuality.
Yes.
Because they always got us talking about penises. How big? We grew up talking, man, mine big. I put mine on my shoulder.
Yes.
Why is that even
That's a
important?
thing. Right.
Why was that even important? Because that was passed down to us to be our focus. Because if you become an adult, it doesn't. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody in here has been down that road before.
All of
I'm
us.
saying.
All of
So
us.
Yeah.
that is not even a conversation that most women even have, because they'll tell you. I mean, they all come in different sizes and satisfy us differently.
Yeah.
So why was that the focus for us as black boys? Because we saw things and then we had, this is, man, you got to bang this many chicks and blah. But nobody had a problem with that. Nobody had a problem with that. And we had those kind of conversations as children.
As children.
Learning those values from other kids because dad wasn't around to teach us.
There you go.
Wow.
Son, your body is just as holy as a woman's.
Yep.
Because we're talking
Even more.
Exactly.
Can I read something?
Even more.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I'm gonna tell you how I got to this, but I think you probably know where I'm going. All right, so it's 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 19, and it basically says, "Don't you realize that your body is it's talking about sexual immorality, it's about this, but don't you know you realize your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you, was given to you by God. You do not belong to yourself, for God bought you at a high price, so you must honor God with your body." That scripture, and I always think about what can I leave, what can I impart on my son or even my daughter, and it was that scripture. And it was I was praying one day, and God revealed Himself to me in that scripture. And I'm not going to tell you how I got to this point, but essentially, it was a long day at work. I said, I'm gonna go get a pre-roll. And I sat there, and within minutes, that scripture was my daily bread scripture, but it was, I'm gonna be transparent, it was hovering off the screen. I said, wait a minute, this is some strong stuff. Wow. This is from alcohol. This might be a little too strong. I'm a newbie to this, so but it was deeper than that. So I heard a voice say, whatever I was consuming at that time, it was like, why are you watching it? And I was like, man, I'm tripping. Something ain't right. And he said, no, you heard me. And it was like confirmation of that. Like I needed to go deeper into Corinthians.
Exactly, yeah.
So I went down that in idolatry and all. This was just 2 weeks ago now. And at the moment where that fled from me, where I felt like, okay, the Holy Spirit is leading me at this moment, my neighbor's motion light goes off. And it was weird because I got chicken and I have a motion light right there by them. And it was a motion light behind them. So almost like God was saying, I was here. I just want you to know, I need you to dig deeper into that. And I need you to apply what I just read to what you were thinking about, how you want to coach your children and teach them that their body belongs to me. We are leasing our loved ones and leasing ourselves and our ideologies. All this is a lease. God owns, and to some people, God is different for them. But I think God, what he was trying to say is, all of y'all, I got this. Like, y'all lease all this stuff you worried about doesn't even matter. I paid for your body with a high price, right? And so I feel like with black men sometimes we put such a heavy emphasis on being masculine or being gay, all these different categories we're talking about right now that honestly, man, really don't matter.
Yeah,
What's the end goal?
Yeah.
Right? I grew up, my mom was a hairstylist, so I didn't even mention that. She's 15, she doing hair. Well, at the beauty salon, there were gay men that were there. My mom picked me up from school. I'm at the hair salon. I'm sweeping the floor. I'm doing everything. And I saw this at a young age. I didn't think anything different. I thought that people were made different. I didn't have that perception. But here in Memphis, being from Little Rock and then coming here, it's a perception of people feel like that man is beneath me. I'm better than him because I'm messing with females or I'm running the streets. And it's hard for me to believe in the ideology of a Memphian versus somebody who's from Little Rock because our ideologies were different. I didn't feel like I was brought up to look at black men, their identities and their traits differently.
Yeah.
It's just you black man, you like men. Okay, so what else? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you play video games? Like, you know, it didn't.
Because so much of our value has always been attached to our sexuality.
Right.
Which is really ignorant because I don't have sex at work all day. I make money. Right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, unless I did that for, unless I did that, but, and of course not really. I'm just saying that even like our ability to create, all of these men are all creators and they're all gods in their own right. Yes. Because you got Big G, and the Bible also talks about the other Jesus.
Right.
They talk about us.
Yes.
And it's time for us to take that power.
Yes. Yes.
I grew up in South Memphis. The mosque was nowhere from my house. They showed love to everybody in the community.
Right.
Facts.
They fed all the kids in the community.
Facts.
I had to learn about the free food programs when I was younger because the Bible school that I went to taught us about it.
Wow.
Because we were all in the same community. Yeah. But when those other things started happening, big like the drug showed up. Who church do you go to? Oh, they ain't doing nothing at that church. You need to go to mine.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Separatism. Oh, we don't fool. Why? Because we're all dealing with the same human condition and trying to find an answer to that problem or that question. And as Tony also mentioned, we can't approach it the same way as we used to. Now, we've gotten to an inflection point, gentlemen. We've gotten to an inflection point where we're all here for a reason.
Yes.
And we all feel empowered to be here because we could have went and done something else. He could have had another service to go to, or he could have had another pod, or he might have a contract he's working on to get somebody straight where he's doing. But no, everybody took time out to say, nah, I've been thinking about this too.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to really let's have a conversation, but be open and honest about it. And I think that's one of the first steps.
I think it needs to be more than a conversation, though.
Absolutely, of course.
And I'll tell you why I say that. We just had a mayor election, remember? Remember that mayor election?
Yep.
18 people
18.
originally, right?
Yep.
One white guy drops out. So now we have 17 black people in this race who are all intelligent, who all bring different talents and skills to the table, right? And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, these people are intelligent enough to know that only one person knows. I would assume that they know that, right? And so I'm like, but we have all these people from different areas of the community who have a lot of talents and are very educated and smart for the most part. Although I did see a podcast with Barack Obama who said, every level I've been on, there's been some smart people, and I went to Harvard, some smart people, some fools. Went to the G20 summit, there was some smart leaders, and some fools. But anyway, so the thing that should have happened was, okay, hey, let's all get together and say, hey, I'm gonna do my best to win, but whoever wins, the other 16 people, we're gonna get together and we're gonna fix this community, or we're going to do what we can to fix this community, because Memphis is 65% black, but we get the proverbial short end of every stick that there is, right? Still, right? Black people running government in Memphis.
That's right.
We still get the short end of every stick, right? And so, but no, that don't happen. Everybody goes to their corners when the election is over, right? Nobody helps. Nobody, right? And so my thing is that I said this needs to be more of a conversation, because one thing I learned from my father was that we know the problems. We talk about the problems. We have a conversation about the problems. But we got to put a plan together and start solving the problem. And I'm saying that we sitting in here as like-minded black men, that we should put together a solution to start solving some of these problems. And so that's why I say it needs to be more, put an agenda together. And I say that I'm committed to doing that because, you live, man, and I'm probably older than everybody, and I don't know how you're old, you might.
56.
Yeah, I'm holding everybody. So, I love to see sunny days come up, man. I love to see the sun come up every morning, but hey, what good is it, man, when you go down in South Memphis and you go out here, man, you see people in squalor, you see these children, man, who walk to school when it's 20 degrees outside, man, and they got on some short sleeve shit, you know what I'm saying, because they ain't got nothing to wear. You know what I mean? For me, at this point, man, it's all about service, man. I mean,
that's it.
And I'm just saying that, I guess probably what I'm saying is I'm tired of doing a lot of talking. That's all I do is talk about this shit all the time. And so at some point, we have to say, hey, we're going to sit in the room and we're going to say we're going to do that. I don't give a damn if we're going to put benches on the damn street. But we need to come together as black men and put the damn benches out there, or whatever it is we decide to do that we think we can do to impact our community. It can be small. It has to start small.
Right.
And then, because I'm going to tell you what, there are a lot of people out there who are just like you and me, who wait for somebody to do something.
That's true.
Like, they on the edge. And all they need to do is see somebody show up, man. And they like,
shit to do.
They're like, and I put it to you like this here. I've been a Christian all my life up until 1990.
Wow.
Right? I went to the convention center to see Minister Farrakhan's City of the Dead, 1990, July 7th. And when I went there, I said to myself, that's where I need to be.
Wow.
Like, I've been in church all my life.
Wow.
I said, that's where I need to be. Because he was talking about stop the killing at that point. He was on a tour about stop the killing. He was talking about us, black men, killing each other. And so I didn't officially join until 1997, 7 years later, right? I didn't actually come to the mosque until 94, but I will tell you that I joined that day because I heard something that touched in here that made me want to help my people. And whether you were gay, straight, Christian, there's really no difference in any of us. And so my thing is that we have to start putting a lot of this knowledge and intellect like what we have in this room right now. We have to come out of our corners, man, and come together and make that shit that we're talking about look real.
Right.
And that's
And be real.
Right.
Be real. Be tangible. So
Right.
you can see this shit and touch it, and it's like, oh, they did this the first time. And everything that
And they ain't arguing.
And they come with critics, but shit, it can be done.
Right.
So let me ask you while the camera's rolling, and this is just a soft way outline, but what does a black male rites of passage look like from birth to death?
So I want to put a pause right here. That's exactly where I was going.
Okay.
I want to put a pause right here. This is a great conversation. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about who is the gatekeepers next week. So we're going to put a pause right here. This is Ray Bridging Humans, a place where the people get to hear you and the world get to see it. We'll see you next week. Same conversation. We're coming back next week.